Looks like we're live. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Timothy Gager, and welcome to Virtual Friday's Dire Literary Series. Our feature and guest tonight is Gregory Wolos, and Gregory is going to read a short story from his upcoming book, and then we'll ask him questions. And a little bit about Gregory, if I may, and over 100, here's his bio, everyone. Over 100 of Gregory Wolos's short stories and reviews have been published in journals like Glimmer Train, Georgia Review, Michigan Quarterly Review. There's a very long list. Gregory's very well published in some very great places. His stories have earned numerous Pushcart Prize nominations and have won awards sponsored by Descant, Solstice, the Rubery Book Award, Gulfstream, New South, Emery's Journal, and Gambling the Isle. Gregory's full-length collection include Women of Consequence, Regal House Publishing in 2019, Dear Everyone from Duck Lake's Books in 2020, The Thing About Men, which is upcoming from Treveda Barber Press. So without anything else from me, let me turn it over to Gregory Wolos.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to start today. I'm going to read a short story from my Trevena Barber collection that's forthcoming. I've chosen a story called Balance, which originally appeared in Descant, which is the journal from Texas Christian University. The editor, Matt Pitt, saw fit to award this story the Frank O'Connor Fiction Award. So, surprise winner. I'm going to read the first 2/5 of the story and be ready to talk about it afterwards. So, without further ado, here comes a portion of Balance. You feel the girls cowering behind you, but you don't turn. The rusted tracks lead through the trestle's steel frame. It looks like the entrance to a giant have-a-heart trap. 30 feet below, the river is slate blue, except for the trestle's skeletal shadow. The day is breezeless, the water without a ripple. Though it's October cool, you're all sweating. You've been running for almost an hour. Across the bridge, the curving tracks disappear into a forest of scrub oak. Cross it or don't, you say. It's 2 miles back if you do, 5 if you don't. What if a train comes, a nervous voice asks. They don't use these tracks anymore, you say, though you're not 100% sure. Look how rusty they are. I run this trail all the time. This is a lie. You have never crossed the trestle before, but you can see that there are wooden planks on either side of the tracks all the way to the other side. Your heart is pumping. You're sure the girls' 15, 16, 17-year-old hearts are pumping too. This is something new, something to break the monotony of training, something inspirational. The Wellington girls do this kind of thing every day, you say. That's why they're champions. Who's first? You know who'll be first. Mary, determined as a pit bull, likely to qualify for states. Of the dozen members of your cross-country team, her name is one of the two you'll always remember. It's empty between the wooden things, somebody says. Railroad ties. Stay off of those, you warn. Stay on the sideboards, like I said. Is there room if a train comes? I told you, don't worry about trains. You're challenging their trust. Just go slow and be careful. Jog. Hold the side rail if you have to. If the boards don't look right, if they're rotten or have a hole or something, just stop. And don't bunch up. String out, spread the weight. I'll follow you. Just keep your eyes forward, down on the boards in front of you. You disallow second thoughts, theirs and yours. This crossing will be the stuff of legends. Mary dashes past you. Her running shoes thud on the boards, and she slows, but keeps going. The twins, the skinny seniors, follow. The hoods of their blue team sweatshirts bounce on their backs. Then they're all out there, all 12 girls, stretched out like a blue caterpillar. The last pair of feet belongs to Charisse, a lanky JV sophomore, who's directly in front of you. Charisse has talent. You'd run her varsity if she didn't miss too many practices because of her lead role in the school play. World of potential, you told her mother last week after watching her win her JV race. She tries to do too much, her mother said, shaking her head with poorly disguised pride. Sometimes we worry that she's spreading herself too thin. We hope she learns to balance things. She's going to have to make choices. Balance is important, you agreed. The two of you gazed at the girl who sat on the grass, tugging on her sweatpants, sharing a post-race laugh with her teammates. At that moment, you'd had a premonition that Charisse would not be remembered for running. There's a shout up ahead. Mary's. Stop, hole. And the caterpillar bunches up and halts. Charisse, directly in front of you, looks up from her feet and veers to her right to avoid bumping into the girl ahead of her. She trips, grunts, lunges to her left for the side rail, misses, stumbles, and slips between ties. What, you wonder? Is she melting? But you know Charisse is falling. Her blonde hair flaps for an instant at your feet. Then there's only an arm, a hand, spread fingers. You bend over the space between ties and see nothing but shadowed water 10 yards down. And only then do you shout her name. 11 heads jerk around, mouths gaping. When they understand why you're stooping, they bleat like frightened sheep. Your team shuffles back to you, their knuckles right on the side rail. Your jaw moves, but no words come out. All eyes are on the water. There, Charisse, Mary yells, pointing at a spot downriver. She's okay, look, she's moving, Charisse. Where? She's okay, she's moving, Charisse. Is she climbing on shore? She's trying to climb on shore. Charisse. Faces flash towards yours, each pair of eyes a slap. Coach, 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 coach. You watch the twisted figure bob in place just offshore, less than 100 yards away. Just a waterlogged bundle of clothes, snagged on something unseen. Waking or sleeping, you relive versions of her fall. Images shift randomly, like a television with a fitful remote. You see yourself save Charisse with a steadying hand on her elbow. Once, you snatch her hood at the last second, and as she sways in space between the ties, her eyes bulge up at you with confused gratitude. Another time, you stand on shore, watching from a distance as she plunges toward the water like a stone. Sometimes you slip between the ties with her, and there's a thrill in your gut as the dull water rushes toward you. You fall beside her for what seems like hours, both of you squinting and grinning against the updraft. Her hair streams skyward. She's asking you a question, but you can't make it out. Is she rehearsing lines from her play? Your senior girls take action. The twins sprint off the trestle with tear-streaked faces, looking for a house from which to call 911. Mary and another slide down the embankment beneath the trestle and make their way toward the spot where Charisse bobs. You herd the remaining girls off the trestle in tracks. They huddle together, trembling and crying silently. One vomits behind a bush. Your challenge across the trestle hangs in the air like burning sulfur. Ankle-deep mud prevents Mary and the other girl from reaching Charisse. Their teammates and you watch them flounder. Police cars, fire trucks, ambulances arrive. Stony faces ask question after question, and you answer in a numb-lipped monotone. EMTs wrap the girls in foil blankets. An hour passes before firemen in a rescue boat reach Charisse. Once, the hair disappearing through the ties is nothing but light that stains your fingers yellow. Once, the hair pours through your cupped hands like cold, hard coins. Another time, Charisse's hair turns into a waterfall of tiny goldfish as it spills through the gap at your feet. One fish misses and lies quivering on the wooden tie. You squat, flick it off, and watch it drop like a golden tear. You are never criminally charged because town records list the trestle as a pedestrian bridge. Crossing it was perfectly legal, though now yellow barricade tape blocks the plank walkways. Your union would have been obliged to support you in a criminal case. There is talk of a civil suit brought by Charisse's parents, but it never materializes. Regardless, you resign. You don't impose yourself on friends, colleagues, acquaintances. Apparently relieved at the distance you keep, none of these seeks you out. You will never coach or teach again. You leave town the night of the final performance of Charisse's play. Her understudy performs in her place. As you drive across the state line heading west, you picture a curtain call dedication to Charisse. Actors and audiences offer a tearful ovation to the auditorium ceiling. You leave behind rumors, launched, you suspect, by your ever-faithful runners. Charisse, at the time of her fall, was teetering emotionally, they whisper, working too hard, in despair. She wrote, "Life hurts too much" on an Etch-a-Sketch at a team sleepover, then shook the message away. They hint that the incident on the trestle was less a horrible accident than a seized opportunity. No one believes them. And these girls, your team, will eventually forget that they love you. When they grow older, marry, have children of their own, their sympathies will change. Poor Charisse, they will sigh as they rock their babies. How could he have let her fall? You punish yourself with exile to another coast, but Charisse fills the vacuum inside you. In the corner of your eye, there is always a girl slipping between railroad ties, a flap of hair, a waving hand. What if you offered her fear? If you found work as a firefighter, a coal miner, a deep-sea fisherman? Might risking your life daily against earth, fire, or water free you from the girl you let fall? Maybe, but you lack the qualifications or opportunities for these dangerous jobs. Instead, you lie about your janitorial experience and find employment as a night shift custodian in a nursing home. That's it for now.
Thank you so much, Gregory. And that story will appear in The Thing About Men?
Yes.
Which is due out in 2022. So everyone can look for that. One thing I did notice in some of your bios, you have a quote or an assertion by Kafka that says that literary work should be an ice axe to break up the frozen sea inside us. Now, is that having to do with the writer and catharsis, or does it more have to do with cold and unmoving to more fluid ways of life?
To me, the quotation means a lot because it's what I want to happen to the reader who's listening to my story. Something that breaks up the normal flow of their consciousness, of their general thoughts, something that opens up a crack, which might lead to some other kind of thought or a way of looking at things like prismatically in a way they'd never had before. That's that quotation. That's what I like to have happen in my stories.
Now, how many stories are included in The Thing About Men?
Thing About Men has 17 stories.
And what was the time period that they were written in?
Anywhere from, I think, 2011 to 2018, because I submitted it and had it accepted by Gloria, I think like a year and a half ago. So this story was written the year 2018, this particular story.
And we've got a question that fits right in here, which says, did you consider other choices of point of view for this story? And what was the decision to write it in the second person?
Well, that's a great question. It's one of two stories I've written in the second person. And I'm most satisfied with this one. The choice of second person for me, first person didn't seem to work because that isolated you to the character and the reader can separate himself from the character. I like the you because the character kind of objectifies himself and is studying himself outside of himself. And also the you points a finger at the reader and draws the reader in to well, what is there in my life that, what huge mistakes might I have made? What can prefigure, or what huge mistakes might be awaiting me in the future? So I like the second person for it, and it seemed to work. It seemed natural to me when I started it. I fiddled around afterwards with other choices, but it didn't work as well. Same thing with, I would say, the choosing the present tense was also a conscious choice, because the thought of this girl, and the second part of the story is his search for absolution, is always with him. So that's the reason for both the second person and the there's not a lot of, so I used to claim when I taught a creative writing class years and years ago, that there weren't any second person stories. You couldn't do it. And then of course, like, students of mine came in and said, look at these great second person stories. And this was the first one I wrote. I tried that with.
And what was the motivation for the story? And that's a question from Stephanie Wolos. Any relation?
It's a common name. Everybody's got a name like that. Yeah, it's my wife. The story derives I was a cross-country coach. I coached girls. We were at one point ranked 7th in the country many years ago in the 80s. And one day, while going on one of our runs, we came to the railroad bridge, and I said, wouldn't it be nice to cross this? And we did, successfully. And I've been haunted by it ever since. When I got home and said, hey, we ran across the railroad bridge today, I caught a lot of flack for that. I never told anybody. I guess it's okay. I probably won't lose my pension if people find out about it now. But I always have thought afterwards about what might have happened, and what that would mean, and how someone who did such a thing could live with it or try to come to terms with it. And again, that's the last 2/3 of the story. You can eventually read the full thing sometime and find out how he resolves this, or the situation is resolved within him.
Now let's talk about the title of this collection. Very often titles are the springboard into the stories. And what I always found, and what I found ironic after reading is the thing about man, which could be like the thing about man, but the thing, singular. And you write in so many different points of view across different, across different class and social situations. So was all of that, when you thought of the original title, what were you reaching for that? What were you going for?
Yes, there's something of that. And let's see if I can sort of give you a back on that pretty quickly. My first collection published was Women of Consequence. And I had been trying to figure out how to collect my stories in ways that would be effective and made sense. So for Women of Consequence, I discovered I had a lot of stories about women, and they were consequential women. But the reason they were consequential is because they exceeded boundaries, and sometimes uncomfortably. They were like, if they were friends, they were too good friends. If they were mothers, they were Munchausen-y kind of mothers. They simply exceeded boundaries. When I wanted a second collection, I said, well, two things. I noticed that, a lot of the stories from the first collection had a second half to them that were another story, a story about men. So it was a natural complementary collection to make. The Thing About Men, why the title? Well, while these women were exceeding boundaries and had sort of a philosophy, even if it was a warped philosophy about what they were doing, the guys in the men's story, and the stories, The Thing About Men, just make a mistake. They are confident in what they're going to do, and they make a choice, and it's a bad one. And that predominates in most of the stories in The Thing About Men. So The Thing About Men isn't any particular thing. It's a quality of men, of the men in the stories, that they're prone to do something really stupid.
So in the time frame that you were writing this, these are the times that the patriarchy is is crumbling or hopes to crumble by, the traditional old white and white privilege is very much under attack by some. Now, does the book fight that or agree with that?
It doesn't. It recognizes it. Let's look at it that way. It's more of it more is here's what happens because of this. I should say that the title of my novel coming out in March is Kika Kong versus the dead white males. So it also plays on similar themes in this story. The men themselves of this story are both victims of and examples of the crumbling patriarchy, I think. At least that's what I'm thinking about while I'm writing it, the stories.
I got a question from John. It says, a story usually resolves issues of guilt, but real life often doesn't. How do you make a story that is realistic, but still good fiction?
Well, sometimes the way a story resolves itself or the guilt resolves itself is not necessarily in a positive way. I have no problem with a story. First of all, I don't have a problem with a story that is open-ended. I think you'll find that when anyone does finish this story, you'll find it ends less. It's less open-ended than a lot of my stories. This guy reaches a particular destination with himself, and you'll have to see how you feel about that.
Now, are there modern fiction writers that, obviously, like you're writing longer form fiction, which is very traditional? Are there modern fiction writers that you like that are writing that 5,000 plus word range?
Yeah, most of what I read is that. I just, the last two books I finished were the O. Henry Prize Stories collection and the Best American Short Stories collection. And I'll get the Pushcart Prize collection next and work through those. And those are all 3,000 to 5,000 generally. Some actually a little longer, few shorter. But so that's the range I aim for. But when I write a story, it usually takes me about a month and a half to 2 months to finish, because I start off, my first draft is usually between 30 and 50 pages instead of 20. And then I rewrite the whole story and over and over and over again. It's extremely rare for any single sentence to survive the first draft.
How long did it take you to write the first draft?
First draft itself, it depends, a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of weeks. My writing habits are pretty established. I get up in the morning and I work for usually about 2 or 3 hours. That's when I do it.
So if you're working on a short story and the first draft is 2 or 3 weeks, what is your general word count per day as you're creating? Yeah.
I've done, I'll go anywhere from 200 or 300 to 1,000 if it's a good day, if I'm putting stuff out there. Because what happens subsequently through each draft is I'm searching for the heart of the story. That's what the process is really about. What's the heart of the story? And when I find it, then things start to go much faster. And I one thing that I would, I pride myself on is my bloodthirsty cutting. I mean, I've gotten to thus with the spot I damn thee, boom, you're out. And character, you no longer exist. That kind of thing.
Matthew Pitt, he was the publisher and who published that particular story. He also blurbs your book, and he says that your work makes all of us should be delving deeper. Now, is delving deeper, like in society today, a fruitless venture?
I don't think it's ever a fruitless venture. I mean, depends on where you're going to go. I don't think the whole idea of delving is you're not really going anywhere. You're just you're just uncovering. So I don't think that's a fruitless endeavor for oneself anyway. I don't know if it's going to make you a better cross-country coach, but or something like that. But I think it's always a solid endeavor to uncover.
Now, out of these stories in this collection, many have won awards and some are premiering in this book. What's the breakdown of that?
No, I think everything in this collection is published. My
Oh,
next
wonderful.
collection that I'm marketing now has a couple of stories that haven't been published. I think I only have 2 stories that haven't been published now. That just they're my latest stories. They're the ones that have forced me to be taking a vacation now because I'm just too tired.
Now, if you take a break from writing or a quote vacation, is it easy for you to jump back in?
Yeah, I start to feel really guilty. And I trick myself to getting back to work and say, well, we're just going to go look at an old draft here. Let's just kind of thumb down here. Oh, what if we do this? Or what if we do that? So I trick myself into getting back into it when I know, what it's a lot like. I'll say my attitude towards what I do with writing is a lot like my attitude towards running. And as a newer runner, you can sort of empathize with that. You have to make a schedule and you have to do it. And so once that becomes habit, then you no longer like having to force yourself to it. So I think making a habit out of working has worked for me.
So sticking with that metaphor, when you do come back to it, do you feel weaker or you've got to build up?
Am I out of shape? Absolutely. But you see, that's why I like the process I go through, because first drafts don't mean much to me. I'm not Hemingway typing the perfect page. I'm just like getting everything I have out there. And usually, I never stop using my moleskins and making notes. I'm always making notes, and then I'm always going through my notebooks to look for things that I might want to match up, because I like the dynamic of finding things that don't seem to fit and putting them together. I think in the second 2/3 of this story, you'll see some of the things that on first glance wouldn't seem to match with what's in the first part. It's the second that as this guy's life plays itself out in his new location, he makes a buddy and all kinds of things happen. But yes, I don't know what the first part of the question was anymore.
Well, we were talking about, well, we'll move on because you talked about The Perfect Page by Hemingway. Would you be able to survive back then without like a word processing type of computer, or would you just have to type the entire thing over and over and over again from
Well,
scratch?
I'm old enough to remember, doing that. And I remember, using either erasable paper, not too much, but also, the old typewriters that corrected the electric typewriters that corrected themselves, or even by my manual in college. I remember doing those kinds of things. The word processor certainly speeds things up, and I think Hemingway meant something different than a perfect, just a neatly typed page. But I couldn't do that. That I couldn't do. It just would seem, unless my object was to write a micro or something, or a flash fiction, then I could see myself doing. But I don't do that. I have close friends who do that.
So did you actually literally cut and paste with a razor and glue?
I have done that. I have taken a whole floor and spread things around all over the place. That takes a long time, and it's a pain in the ass. But I've done that back in the mid '80s. Yeah.
All right. Close to wrapping up. So there is also in your collection, you use a lot of dry humor. Where does that come from in your life?
Smart brothers and parents who didn't get us, so that there was always a kind of secondary dialogue going on in the house. There was, the Leave It to Beaver home, mom, dad, and the kids, and then the kids up to their diabolical planning and discussing and satirizing everything that was being said in the house at the same time. So I tend to have a kind of cockeyed look at epistemological framework to begin with.
You also have a novel coming out in 2022, but what can someone buy as a holiday gift of yours right now?
If you go online or the publisher, this is the first collection. This is Women of Consequence. When the cover first came out, there was a lot of controversy about whether anyone thought that it was good. One bookstore said they liked it because everybody was asking to find the crossword puzzle book. In fact, some people thought it was a crossword puzzle book. And then this is the second collection that I wrote. This is Dear Everyone. That's out there too. I think I'm relatively sure you can still get copies of it, though the publisher is one of the victims of the pandemic, unfortunately. So he doesn't exist. Duck Lake Books no longer functions right now. I don't know if he intends to revive, but so those are the things that are out there. I have, if you just want to read single stories and the newest stories that will be that are in the fourth collection, there's a whole set of books. I posted them on Facebook when I was advertising this reading of my latest stories that have come out this fall, and they're in a variety of different anthologies that can be found.
And if you want more information, you can go to GregoryWolos.com, and Zoom handily has the official name in the bottom left. You just have to add a .com to it and you're right there. It's instant. So thank you so much, Gregory, and really appreciate you joining us. It was a wonderful reading. So folks that are currently watching on Facebook, I'm going to let you guys go now, but the link's still up there if you want to log in and join us in the open mic. And if you want to come back and join us in the Q&A the next time, just stay in the group and follow the link. So thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.